Greg Carlwood, which Greg, I've been getting way into all those Tracy Twyman interviews, which I only just now discovered. And I'm actually like shocked at the amount of like people didn't know. I'd never seen anybody do research like what she did ever, and I'm really into looking into stuff.
Same.
This is what I tell everybody when they like think it's far fetched. Like, you've heard of gangs, right? And
there you go.
Heard of hip hop?
Yeah.
They all do that. You think nothing of it. They put their gang signs on things in a way that only another gang. That's Twilight language, by the way. That's what the hell that is. That's Nathan Reynolds told me when I talked to him about how these companies do that. And this is where the Tracy Twyman thing comes in, is because the Mickey Mouse logo that they're very litigious about.
This made me think about the fact that Mickey Mouse is one of the most popular fictional characters in the world, and the silhouette of his head is among the most recognizable corporate logos ever designed. Although it is an extremely simple design, Disney Corp is very litigious towards anyone who attempts to utilize this symbol, which is why they sued electro musician Deadmau5 for also using a logo featuring the black head of a mouse with 2 large ears. It seems that according to Disney, any unauthorized use of 3 circles combined is infringing on their copyright if the circle on the bottom is larger than the others. They don't even have to be perfect circles. Ever since I first saw it, the Deadmau5 logo has brought to mind the icon of the Death's Head, a glyph featuring a human head often with 2 thigh bones shown beneath. It was used by the Templars on their gravestones, most likely as a reference to the Baphomet, and later became incorporated into the Jolly Roger flag flown by pirates. It was also used in alchemy to symbolize the state of putrefaction, and by the Nazi SS to make them seem fearsome.
Because that's their sigil. That's like, wearing a Hells Angels bottom rocker, LA rocker on your vest, and they're going to sand your tattoo off if you're not accessed. But it's just, think of it like gang shit. Or if you hear about the cartels, everybody has heard of the wild, and it's all, they do occult shit. They do cannibals. You've heard all the stories about what they do in Mexico. Wouldn't even blink hearing about it. And I was like, do you think your white leaders don't do that? Mm-hmm. Do you think only the Browns do that around the world, and your psychopath leaders wouldn't avail themselves of every possible way of getting any little bit of power, right? Much like Hillary Clinton would channel Eleanor Roosevelt. What do you need to talk to Eleanor Roosevelt about, bitch?
As all of you famously learned, my wife, now the Secretary of State, was known to commune with Eleanor on a regular basis. And Eleanor had talked to her and reminded her that I should say that.
Yeah, it seems like
pussy stink out of a pantsuit. Shut up, bitch.
Yeah. It really seems like the fundamental issue is trust. Is you either trust the system or you don't, and then you go from there. Because I try to think back to people I grew up with won't even watch a loose change documentary.
The FBI managed to provide a multitude of evidence that appears to have survived a catastrophic crash in near pristine condition. Among the exhibits were a red bandana, a Kingdom of Saudi Arabia driver's license, John Talignani's driver's license, and flight attendant CeCe Lyle's personal effects, including her driver's license and Marriott hotel card. Although a 757 managed to obliterate itself upon impact, paper and fabric managed to survive without a scratch.
Wouldn't even consider some of this stuff.
I still haven't seen it, dude. And I'm friends with Burmis, and I actually believe everything he has in it. Never saw it to this day.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Not because now it's like now I'm like, dude, I'm so past 9. Yeah, it's fair. I mean, the death is real, of course. The death is always real. But I don't believe it. So I don't need to go through the details. I glaze over if I got to argue with somebody about. I was talking to Scott Horton, who's like, he's got a couple of really great books about like the war on terror and shit. Very smart guy. Went out to dinner. He's like, no, 9/11 happened how they said. He doesn't think Oklahoma happened how they said. He don't think most of them, but for some reason 9/11, he has a real thing where, and he'll get into the engineering details. And I go, listen, buddy, I'm not smart like that. I don't know what it's like when a flat earther tries to mathematically tell me the earth is flat. Okay, you want it flat. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah. I just need to know this, like real basic plot points. Why did they do that? What's the motive? What's the gist of this? Give me a nice Reader's Digest gist of it. And, the thing I find funny is that lackadaisical attitude I have towards research, even though I voraciously look into things. You take like the Washington Monument, where your first thought when you see like, what is that supposed to be, a cog, right? And then if you do all the research, and go through all of it, and it'll take you a little while to really dig
All
in.
comes
You know,
full
it's a cock.
circle. Yeah, exactly.
You nailed it the first time. You didn't have to look up shit. You know, a goddamn big white cock. They made black slaves build it, and I think we know why.
Penis envy. Yes,
This is
dude.
the penis of Osiris.
We're very much on the same page with a lot of that stuff. I mean, I just ask the questions. I consider myself just a regular stoner college dropout guy who asks questions to the people I choose, who I think are very intelligent researchers, and I just want them to make their case. And I'm completely innocent here. I cannot be held responsible.
Unfounded. I throw them out as soon as I feel like it. I don't have no credibility. I'm a clown. Credibility has got to be one of the biggest shackles I've ever seen.
Overrated.
Yeah, it's worthless. And
you want to talk about credibility currency, though? I am talking to the guy who sat in the infamous Rogan guest chair right after Peter Thiel and called him out.
Peter Thiel, I watched you talk to Peter Thiel. I've never seen someone lie so artlessly and autistically in my life.
And live to tell the tale. So there's some credibility currency. You've
Did
amassed a lot.
I was trashing a bunch of people, but I got a lot of stuff off of Dark Journo, especially when I was trashing Clapper and that stupid UFO.
There is logic to the intelligence community addressing this, since the intelligence community has a lot of practice of dealing with ambiguity and less than complete facts. So I think this is a good thing. The transparency, I expect this report will be filled with ambiguity as well. And people, depending on their leanings, will extract what they want out of this report.
Right. Where there is ambiguity, people can pull what they want from it. But it does sound like it is, something that we haven't seen before, this type of transparency around this topic.
Yes. And, I'm not sure why that is.
Document. I don't think it even came out.
Yeah.
And
But
disclosure any second now. And that's I'm so against disclosure.
Agreed.
If you're waiting, it's literally not that anything with evidence. That's why I think it's a waste of time, because people aren't basing shit off that. They're basing it off the Twilight language, what they base it on. And so until they get permission, hypnotic cue of permission from the goddamn government, you can say this now. So that no evidence enters into it at any point. Okay, it's I won't even consider that possibility until an authoritative source, some jerk off, tells me I'm allowed to expand my Overton window enough to squeeze that in, but not too much, just a little bit.
It's insane. I actually just had a big blow up interview with Stephen Bassett, who is the only registered lobbyist for the ufology issue, and he's been pushing for disclosure for forever. And he's like, disclosure to me is very simple. I want the president to come out and tell us what they know. And I'm like, that is the weirdest bar to be obsessed with ever, because one, you can find out a lot of stuff if you do your own research. And then two, you're just going to trust what the president says. You don't even care about any context whatsoever. You just need this particular man to stand at podium and tell you the truth. And that's it. Like, that's such a weird thing to waste your life trying to accomplish.
Dude, atheists say that, and I laugh because they're like, "Oh, you believe in a man in the sky?" Like, no, I believe a man in the house on the ground is who I believe in. You fucking genius. By the way, thank you for steel manning my argument about God by saying you believe in a man in the sky. Well, you really encapsulated quite well. I honestly, I can't think of anybody dumber on the planet than a secular materialist. It's like you have lost half of your brain. You fully had half of your brain taken out. And now you can only think with one part of the brain. And I watch when I talk to people, they're so limited because I don't really give a shit what anybody believes in. It's your possibilities have already been neutered out of the gate. So you're not going to absorb anything, And and so all those stupid bloodlines, that's where dude, when I was listening to Tracy Twyman talking about the Templars, this sounds like a tongue twister. When Tracy Twyman was talking about the Templars. What I thought was so great, because every time I look at this, I'm like, what is this, just some weird, you have to go underground gay BDSM club?
You will be murdered one way or another for betraying them. So I know that stuff like that does happen. I don't know to what extent the broader theories are true, but I know that Hammer Purgstall, when he wrote about the Templars, that Orientalist, he said that he thought that that's exactly what they were doing too, and that's how they were controlling their members. The artifacts that he discovered, he didn't belabor this point because child abuse was not really a big deal back then. Nobody really talked about the rights of children. So that the fact that children were being harmed potentially in rituals was not like the big headline for him. But he was just writing about sodomy rights and then also showing the pictures that seem to depict that. And they involve creatures that, according to the pictures, are either like little elf men or they are children. And it could be either, really. But we know that the Templars did, especially like I think in the later years, induct very young members. So someone as young as 10, I know, in England was inducted, and they would have been also invited to spit on the cross and, kiss another guy's butt and all this stuff, which I don't think that it specifies in the document you have that there's actual
no. There's no reference to any sodomy or analingus or anything like that. Besides just Merzorf saying it existed in the past, and it's sort of similar to the rubbing and kissing the idol. Yeah,
but another document that came out of the Vatican does seem to have confirmed that much. So that I don't feel like maybe they didn't bother to belabor that point in this document, but I think we know that did happen. And so, but we don't know if it went as far as some of the other things that other Gnostic sects, for instance, were, I guess Christian Gnostic sects in later years were accused of. But almost all of them, we mentioned the Waldensians, and there were several of these other groups that were accused of the same set of rituals, very similar, having to do with an idol, sometimes with the head of a cat, or it's like a man, it turns into a man, and then it turns into a cat, and then you're doing these rituals that involve group sex, sodomy, and then usually a child is killed, blood is drained. A lot of times, this is what they said about Waldensians, and these are accusers of them, not the Waldensians themselves, but this is what they were accused of: is burning the victim, the baby victim, so that it would turn into ashes, and then they would mix the ashes with blood and make a paste and anoint the idol with it. The same exact things that then European witches would be accused of later. So we don't know that the Templars really did that kind of hardcore stuff, but there was definitely homoerotic overtones to this induction rite. And then their statutes,
their symbol is homoerotic.
And then there's just the proclamation that was supposedly made. This is again according to the Chinon parchment from the Vatican, released by the Vatican, from the confessions they made to the Pope when they were put on their second trial by the Church itself, not just the King of France. That they said it's bad to have sex with women, it's bad to lust after women, and it's so much better that if you have to do that kind of stuff, you should do it with a man.
Well, it was you can't refuse the advancements of a brother, right?
Yeah. It was again not that it's good, but you got to let it out somehow, and so do it this way instead.
And then there's, I don't know if it's been remarked on, their symbol is the two men on the same horse.
Yes, it's been remarked on. It's always treated like, oh, what's wrong with you? You have a dirty mind, and well, come on. Now we know the truth.
And I always think of Kay Griggs saying that, the leaders, she goes, you think they like these Christians something, but they're all just like German existentialists.
His group they are not Christians. They're what he calls existentialist. And they study German Clausewitz and Nietzsche, Sartre, Camus, Montesquieu.
She doesn't call them Baal worshippers. She doesn't call them Molech. She just sums them up the best I've ever heard, which is your leaders are secretly German existentialists. And that says it all, man. And they are. So just the kind of gross shit, from the bad guys at Big Lebowski. That's who runs the world.
When, when I was talking to her about her book Genuflect, which was the last thing she wrote, I believe it's a novel, a fictionalized account, but she, in an interview, she'll be very candid about this character is essentially Michael Bloomberg, this character is blah blah blah, but I don't know what they do. This is a speculative fictional story. But she summed it up at the end. People still quote on my videos and stuff. It's all about the anal birth of the homunculus.
No, dude, it's like that's why her, she's hit on so many things like that. I kind of like intuitively suspected, but I didn't know how to put that. And I'm like, yeah, there you go. I like because that says it all. That's their stupid fucking thing is the inversion of everything. Because we're in a hologram, and how in a hologram every small piece has the full picture on it.
Yeah,
so if you can mark that up, it affects the entire hologram.
Mm-hmm.
You're a projector, so that's why they're obsessed with the numbers and shit. You're a projector as well as an observer. You're like I think it's you're the piece of the hologram. That's what they mean by all that. As the carp, so the drape shit. You're like the medium for like the. That's why they make it all about light and blah blah blah. It's like you're some kind of prism, and if I can cut you certain ways, I can project. When they say like you got there's always stuff with kids because they got you got a connection to light of God or the cord. What is it called? The silver cord. You got that kind of thing. So that's or when we were saying last week when Linda Moulton Howe talks about the aliens call us containers.
The gray non-human said it was vital that Linda Porter's soul entity continue in the same genetic body container that she had been born with. Linda Porter said there was a problem about Earth body containers, souls, other dimensions.
So she's like, is this soul contain? Could be jizz buckets too. But containers means like a prism that you cut to. And Tracy Twyman had this is so creepy, dude, that she's talking to a guy in a Ouija board that tells her how to make a better Ouija board. Yeah. Like that's one of the most insane, and I've never heard of anyone like objectively going into that stuff, which I know besides her. She's like, well, let's see where it goes,
which is dangerous, so it's like when something suspicious happens to you, it's like you cannot factor out the possibility that she went too deep into the darkness and it got her.
Wasn't she being harassed?
Well, so I don't want to get so crazy into it, but it does involve my website because she was apparently hanging out on my forum, and there was a guy on the forum who started making posts that was like, we should do magic to protect Tracy because of what she's doing. And then she
saw her talk about it.
Claiming that he made me feel like I was drowning at 12:37. Don't recall that at all. I think he just maybe tried. That's not what happened. That didn't affect me at all. But when he says present company not excluded about how, podcasters are intimidated into shutting up about things. Present company's talking about the higher side chats. The forum that he's on. It appears as though the fuckery may have rubbed off on me for trying to spread the word. As of 2 days ago, my email account has been scrubbed. When I try to log into my usual device, I apparently log in fine, but with no access to any messages, new or old, sent or received. Out of curiosity, I had several people try to log in from other locations. Right, that's what the other guy had posted. Alright, so that's it, but you get the idea. He's bragging about it. And claiming victory. And it's another death threat about a water tower, and he's claiming that he's also intimidated the higher side chats. He's claiming that he put something on my computer when I went to his website, and that he was able to send specialized content to me and paste over my experience of other websites, so that instead of seeing what was really on Facebook, for instance, I might have just been seeing what he wanted me to see.
Okay, so she didn't respond all that kindly.
Dude. She made it a Ouija board.
Right, and so, but then this guy, he kept going, and then he got upset because she wasn't responding well, so then he started saying, like, you should be careful because I can do magic and blah, blah, blah. And I told Tracy, I go, get off of there. Just leave the nut alone. I don't know who that is. Like, but you know, a message board has thousands of people. They can only bother you if you're engaging with that. Just walk away. And
how did you not make that connection to the Ouija board shit of a message board to Ouija board? Or she's literally, you're talking to a demon who's lying to you. Like,
I don't know, man.
It couldn't be more of a parallel. That's what they mean with that, as above, so below. If you're wondering what they do in the occult, they do the shit online, just like a message board.
It's very wild. You know, one of my childhood friends became he was doing journalistic stuff for Ground Zero, which she was the producer for that, because he was in Ferguson during the Ferguson BLM thing. So they wanted a man on the ground. I said, my buddy lives there. And so my buddy got on the air, and I got a kick out of seeing my friend on the radio talking about that. Well, they became friends and started talking more about various research. And then, you know, he would kind of tell me a little bit about it, but I was like, you guys are just kind of psyching yourself up. You guys are getting really paranoid. And then one day I wake up and my friend has taken his dogs for a walk, and all of a sudden he's institutionalized and they're cutting the clothes off of his body and he's handcuffed to the gurney and he doesn't have any memory of what happened. And then a few months later, Tracy's hanging in her garage. So this is what I know. So maybe they got a little too close. I don't know. Maybe they just didn't sleep and got each other super paranoid. Maybe it all works together. You set the conditions by making yourself paranoid and not sleeping.
If you got a line on a camp in Arizona where a lot of Turkish people go to, I'd say you stumble onto something.
So that's the guy, Jamie Espy, who scared me into deleting all of my work, because it seemed like my computer had been hacked and all of my accounts had been hacked. And I just didn't want someone else to control them and put up something that I wouldn't want to be up there, you know? So I deleted them instead. A few months later, when I talked about this in public on some other podcasts that I went on to, and when I did an interview with someone where I talked about it, that I put on my own website, actually with Sean Alger, the guy from RX Only Picture Show, I got more threats from Jamie again, actually from his Greenleaf Canyon Campground Facebook page. So not only is he not afraid to tell me who he is and his real name, supposedly, which actually is not Jamie Espy so much, but Jamie Muller. You find that out when you look up Greenleaf Canyon Campground. And he posted from his business's Facebook page these threatening messages on my Facebook page. Y'all, this poor lady, this is him actually, on this one, he's reposting my interview where I mentioned actually specifically him, or I don't think I mentioned him by name, but I talked about the owner of this is what I said, the owner of a campground who was sending me threats. So he realized, okay, well, you're talking about me, because he's the owner of a campground and he's been sending me threats. So he sent some more threats. Post them on his campground's page, so that, I mean, the implication obviously that anyone who's his client that would be looking at his page knows what he's doing there already, and they would be mad at me for talking about it and exposing it in public. So this is his campground's page where he's posting this. Y'all, this poor lady, how sad and deluded she is for giving us the shout out around 3703. Heartbreaking, really. And he puts the two emojis that I've identified as being codes in certain contexts to these videos where, you know, they hurt kids, and kids are destined to quite often to die. So it depends on the context it's used in, but often these videos, or the ones that the advertisements for them that are floating around on YouTube, use these emojis, the broken heart and the black heart. How sad and deluded we were to extend any protection around her whatsoever. I pity you, Miss Twyman, all unprotected. She gets what she deserves. Then he follows up with another comment. We wish her no harm unless she causes us harm. You get the first shit talk for free, silly lady. Next one, not so much. Here he is. Okay, so that was when he's posting from a Jamie account on the Greenleaf page. Here's him using the Greenleaf page's account to post on my Facebook fan page. Peekaboo, we see you, Miss Twyman. Great episode. Poor Miss Twyman. This is on the Greenleaf Canyon Campground website. And look at that address, South Dewey Drive, Williams, Arizona. Poor Miss Twyman, sadly mentally tormented soul. Keep running your mouth and see what happens. Black heart emoji, broken heart emoji. And what pages does he like? WikiLeaf, High Times, and the Higher Side Chats. Well, that's what the Greenleaf Canyon Campground page likes. Here's a review that they got. The host is violent. This is May 31st, 2017. Reservation was for 2, but Jamie changed it to 1 on his own. When we reached there at 9:30 p.m., he yelled at me to leave. He threatened me to shoot with his gun and kill me. Pictures attached for proof. Traveled as a couple. This is from Arun M. There's a look at the guy we're talking about. So look, this is the guy that was harassing me. I actually mentioned this stuff to Isaac Cappy. And, you know, I might have actually told him specifically who these guys were. I told this story on interviews I did on other podcasts that are larger than my own, where in those same conversations I also talked about Isaac Cappy. I talked about his appearance on Alex Jones, and I critiqued it, and I talked about his story a little bit. I talked about what I saw as the reasons to believe him, and then the reasons to maybe not believe him. So it's very likely that not only did I tell Isaac Cappy the specifics about these people who were attacking me from Arizona, from this campground, but that he then heard me mention it again later if he listened to these podcasts where the subject was, one of the subjects discussed was him. So, it seems likely he might have listened to those, or that someone who knows him listened to them and reported it to him, brought it to his attention. So that would have been yet another reminder, oh, pay attention to this. Maybe if I had known, I feel like he was going out there to investigate this thing in Williams. It could have been that he was part of it, and that's why he was out there, and then they were just killing off someone who was kind of a loose end. But I would say my instinct on this is I think he was out there to investigate it, and I don't know if he was following up on the leads that I had given him, or if he had some other angle that had brought him out there. But that's what I think he was doing. And it could very well be that, it was Jamie of Greenleaf Canyon Campground that lured him out there for whatever reason. And until after I attempted to report this to the FBI, and the FBI kind of steered me out of the room, and they refused to write down anything I said. They took down my name, but they wouldn't tell me even the name of the officer I was talking to. They wouldn't let me in the building so I could sit down and talk to him. I had to stand there basically right next to the gate leading to the FBI building. I wasn't even allowed to go in the building. Wouldn't shake my hand. Wouldn't sit down with me.
Now, what makes this stranger is Tracy was also mentioning the fact that a group of Turkish businessmen were continually visiting these campgrounds. So Tracy was actually telling her friend that she was concerned for her safety, and soon after that, she was found hanged in her garage. So the videos of Tracy discussing Greenleaf Canyon were actually videos that she gave to 2 of her friends, telling them not to post it online because she was really concerned for her safety. But after she died, they decided to release it to the public, essentially it being like a dead man switch. Now, Cappy allegedly also had a dead man switch, so take a look at this. So of course that video took place in a Turkish bathhouse, and Tracy was talking about how Greenleaf Canyon campgrounds were hosting a bunch of Turkish businessmen. And the bathhouse appears to be in this hotel in Turkey.
I didn't know Turkish people were involved.
That. What?
The Turks are involved?
Dude, I mean, surely you know all the bizarre Turkish shit, which is like most of this comes from, because that's where Sabotage Sevi went. The
That's
Wizard
so
of Oz.
crazy you bring that up.
Tower
dude.
of Oz, where
You're
they
talking
kept Sabotage Sevi.
1666, basically, right? That's what you're talking about.
So Sabotage Sevi, what I love about that story is because it's called it was before the Holocaust. That was the greatest disaster in all of Judaism, was Sabbatai Zevi, because he was this Messiah that took like over half of the Jewish diaspora at the time.
The post-conversion disciples of Sabbatai Zevi developed a theology of holy sinning, in which one descends into the evil of false religion in order to transmute it into true Zoharic Judaism.
Yeah, look, Rasputin is the same deal. When you hear Rasputin, salvation through sin, you're like, what is this shit? They're gonna like spiritually bungee jump, like we just got to go so low that we snap all the way to the top.
It's kind of.
Are you insane?
Wow.
Like, they're nuts. And you just brought up you go, Tracy, get off the fucking message board. You get nuts with it. And if you don't have discernment, that's what the whole prayers and all that are supposed to be for. So you have the discernment to go, I don't have to do anything this idiot's saying to me or care what they say. That includes Baphomet. Like, I don't have to fucking listen to this idiot. I don't have to do this shit. So there's like it seems such kamikaze mission, as I just now, dude, in like the last few months heard of Tracy Twyman. I was just trying to find everything. And it's like I'm watching a horror movie. Like, she's doing stuff that I'm like, whoa, that is wild what you found. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I'm waiting for it to be like, and that's when I found Jesus Christ, because I was scared out of my mind. No, she went dead. Like, I wouldn't do that.
No,
and just seeing someone do it is like, who would even do that?
And I learned a little bit more after she died. I mean, because obviously there was a lot of, I guess, pressure on me, because it's like from two different angles. I'm pretty close to people who are somewhat involved in the last few months of her life, but they're pretty loose connections, but it still doesn't feel good to be in that hot seat. But so I would try to learn more. I'm like, where
a lot of single ticket buyers, we call them.
I mean, I wasn't accused of assassinating a president. So, I mean, it's not compared to that heat, it's nothing, but
you don't even want to know how much.
Well, I found out that when you go, the reason she has a lot of occult knowledge, right? So she used to pal around with a lot of these people, and a lot of people who are researchers who are just curious, they get too close to people who are very dangerous because they're trying to figure stuff out. I'm sure there's been people who've climbed the ranks of Freemasons, not because they were bad or seeking power. They were just curious about what power is up there. So they went through the ranks. And I think she did something similar with occult groups. There's a lot of wild rumors out there. I heard you talking to Johnny Cerici about how the elite don't let people know their birthdays because there are cosmic forces, and there's a game
fighting each other
played.
too.
Yeah, astrologically, if you find out a lot of that stuff and people's energies and their vulnerabilities, it has real meaning. So don't let anybody read your birth chart that you don't trust. And that goes, the elite are like that. And so if they believe it, I start to wonder what's up with it.
Do you know what that is? They know. Here's their little secret that they know. It's the same as like online. Don't let people have it's like a phishing scam. If you give out your data like that, and they have
don't give out your cosmic.
It's like you let that's how they, and let's be real dry and not magic about it, which I don't even like. They call it bioprogramming, and you just think of everything like a goddamn computer. They keep telling you like you're a computer probably. They keep pushing this shit because it is like that to a large degree. Watch Mark Passio stuff. There's a bunch of Jews who are like, what are you all talking about? This is absolutely crazy. But a bunch of people were rich, and it's like the Babylon story, and they're like, no, I mean, I like to fuck. There's like the Ron Jeremy kind, and they want to feel good about themselves, and like, oh, you mean the more I'm fucking, the better? Like a Rasputin, like, yeah, you got to just fuck a lot. It's really important that we all get the same strain of HPV and herpes. So anyway, the Turkish whatever Sultan's story. There's a couple of stories, but he's like, I'm gonna shoot you full of arrows, and because you're the Messiah, you're Christ, right? You get up again, so you'll be fine. And he's like, you don't have to do that. I'll convert to Islam right now. But if you just like, I'm like, I'll suck your dick right now. There was like that level of like, oh, dude. So he put on a big onion hat and went to the Tower of Oz, and so a bunch of people were disillusioned, as you can imagine. But just like Christ, they always say that Jesus Christ, him dying would have been considered a failure at the time, right? That's like, oh, your Messiah who's supposed to lead you to freedom died. But then he converted to Islam. Now, if you thought crucifixion was embarrassing for a Jewish Messiah, conversion to Islam is like, holy shit, dude. Like the greatest heel turn in all of pro wrestling. up until
and they made everyone else that was part of his cult convert to Islam. So you have
you had to go either way. So Jehovah's Witnesses I was in 77, they said the world was going to end, or some faction did. They spread the blame around, but it must have been in a publication because a bunch of people thought it was going to happen and didn't get their teeth fixed and all that shit because they're going to have new kingdom teeth or whatever the fuck. And so some people were disillusioned and other people were even stronger in their faith. So that's what happened. And we can convert too. And now, so right there, you got your proto shapeshifter, as people think of it today, because imagine how mind-blowing it is for someone to change up their religion like it's no fucking big deal back then to that mind.
Right. Well,
they call them dogmes, by the way, in Turkey. Yeah. People should look up the dogmes because they have.
I was calling them Don May.
Most people hold a completely erroneous belief about human nature. They falsely believe that human beings are either good or bad by their very nature. Completely contrary to these popular but incorrect beliefs, the reality of human nature is that human beings are simply programmable. We are programmable beings. Similarly, like a computer, the behavior of a human being will largely depend upon its programming, the quality of information that is input into the being, which will enable it to process and create efficiently, if it's good. So if good information / programming goes in, the good result comes out on the other side. If garbage programming goes into the being, garbage result comes out on the other side.
He'll tell you that's their big secret in the church. The secret of human nature is programmability.
Yes.
And they're like carnies, like Walt Disney, the ultimate carny. Mm-hmm. And they're all about programming the rubes, which is you. Mm-hmm. And that's like the tricks are the magic. And if you do them well enough, you'll make real shit because everyone gets focused. If you get to be the ones cutting the prisms, like I just need to snip a tip off your dick, dude, to make the perfect, to make the light shine just right out of you. Right.
That's why I'm an intactivist now.
What's that?
An intactivist, those are the people who want to stop circumcisions. They want to be more intact. Intactivists, they're out there. Some people are putting weights on their foreskin trying to regrow.
I mean, honestly, I don't know what I'm missing. I feel like maybe 30% more pleasure, but also about 150% more smells.
Hey, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, there's a guy who wrote
Don't ever go down that rabbit hole.
There's a documentary called American Circumcision. I interviewed him. It's on Netflix, so it's pretty well. It's out there, on a big major platform.
We should be like, ooh, that should be.
But it goes down all the information of what you actually are missing. And it's a lot. It's a lot more than just a little skin on the tip of your dick.
Some sort of magic, I bet.
No, it's very significant for your sexual pleasure. There's 3 or 4 different types of orgasms men could have from their foreskin on the glands that are attached. I know someone who had an adult circumcision because they had a injury that resulted in a infection and they had to get an adult circumcision. So I asked my buddy about this and he's like, absolutely real. Sex is a tiny fraction of what it was before that happened to me.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, no, it's clear. I mean, to me, that's doing it at birth or whatever when you're a kid.
Yeah, it's a satanic ritual.
You don't remember it? It's a mind control ritual.
You might remember it. You might remember it in the deep bowels of your psyche.
Mm-hmm. It's a trauma on your genitals. And I always be like, what? Like, because you can't really find good info about why it's a thing, circumcision. You can't. There's a lot of ideas, but I'm like, what's the definitive? And then this comic down here, Hans, who's Korean, he goes, yeah, in Korea they do it when you're 12. Oh, I go, what? He goes, why? He goes, probably because they want you to remember, so you don't make trouble. And I'm like,
trauma, like it's induced trauma.
That's trauma-based mind control. And on a baby, and if you hear what I mean, like I said, that circumcision thing he said was bad enough to even get into what, like Jay Parker, what he says they do to infants.
Being brought up to be 9th generation Illuminati, I go into graphic detail about the physical, emotional, and spiritual abuse I went through in the first 7 years of life. Human sacrifice, sexual raping, being buried alive.
It's so like horrendous. You want to talk about it. Circumcision I could barely talk about. but they do a lot of inverted things of that, right? Like, and I think it like one is to get your sex drive under control, and one's to try to make it out of control to like back. But they're all little control mechanisms. But I think it's some kind of programming at birth is the reason for it. I don't understand the big bag of foreskins in the Bible. You had to bring somebody.
I think that's a big part of it. But also, if there was any esoteric power in sexuality, which the Indians seem to think so, look at
rub it on her face.
If there is any, though, I think that's a big part of why it would be done. Is like we gotta clip that so that their sexual drive is reduced to just physical pleasure and not esoteric power or any kind of spiritual development. Which, in the East, it is a spiritual thing, and you can go deep into that whole thing. But
I'm not into none of that Eastern shit because
warm-blooded American man.
No, because how the British ruling class loved it, and you could see why they loved it so fucking much. They love a nice caste system where everybody knows their place. They're having problems with that now. Everybody don't know their place no more.
Right.
And their place is wherever we tell you, because we're the dragon blood. We have the blood of the dragon, so you have to do it. I don't understand why anybody does it still. Why do we have royalty? I ask every time someone's on, and there's your conspiracy.
Yeah.
The fact that exists, you fucking idiots. The end. That's what it is. So, and you don't get to see all of them. They get to hide and do all kinds of weird. And Tracy Twyman, I think, is mind blowing. The 33 significance, which is on that compass, is only 32 points. So they're a little extra dimensional because they're on the 33rd degree that you can't even look down.
Right.
Well, she picked that out. I don't think it's any official document. I think she picked it out, and I think she's right about that.
Yeah, I think so too. And on that angle, something that we used to talk about right towards the end was the idea of hidden hyperspace kingdoms. This was kind of one of her terms. This idea, like when you watch a movie like Kingsman, you see them all meeting in a room, but they're not really there. It's just like a hologram of them. Well, take the technology out of it and think about the astral body. If you look at the Masonic tracing board, there's a lot of symbolism of sun in the sky, moon in the sky, ladder up the middle, or staircase up the middle to a hidden window. So she's working with this premise and reverse engineering the symbolism and suggesting that they might have rituals that, just all the angles and stuff that Freemasons are about. They might have found a way to reliably go to a space within space, a non-physical void, and have meetings or live forever. It could be an immortality machine.
Go watch Nathan Reynolds. He says what they did. That's what he says.
Who, Nathan Reynolds?
Yeah, go watch it.
I'm unfamiliar.
Well, I brought up 3 times already, but I'm going to tell you the thing about his family finding the not the serpent mounds. They would dig through mounds. It sounds like his great whatever was like a Joseph Smith warlock type, and they found some scrolls that taught him how to get in good with Nahash, the serpent, and because there's Amaru, there's a Amurika we live in, right, with the winged serpent.
In other words, writes author Steve Quayle in his book True Legends, the New World wasn't named after the map maker, but rather the map maker Vespucci named himself after the New World. And his friends and historians then claimed that the Americas were named after him. At least that is what the Spaniards understood. Various spellings of America occur in Spanish documents, beginning with the visit to that land by Alonso de Ojeda, with whom Vespucci sailed in 1499. Ojeda reported that he received friendly treatment at the hands of the Indians of Maracapana. Maracapana was also written as Amaracapana, the place where Columbus landed during his voyage past Trinidad and the Orinoco River a few years before Ojeda. Apparently, the Indians called the general area America, and Pana meant country or region. Later visitors to the western regions of South America found that the Incas called their region Amaruca.
And his family followed it wherever he said. And Nahash wasn't like Satan or something. It was a separate thing. And they could get a peek. The way he said it, by doing things they wanted, they could get a peek into it. If you listen to how Tracy follows the breadcrumbs these things give her, well, that's what they do. They're Nigerian scamming you and giving you little peeks.
Dr. Heatherlyn, when she was describing these similar sources, she said there's an occult group that goes back to France, that her and Tracy both knew people in, and they are a hermaphroditic order, which goes kind of to the whole thing about Baphomet. And then it goes, and she basically suggested that one of the agents of this esoteric order of hermaphrodites is Macron's wife. And Macron's wife.
Oh, wait, what? Whoa. Tracy Twyman said this?
Tracy Twyman, a person who researches similar to her, and Tracy wasn't really around
How
to
long
say
ago?
this. Yesterday.
I mean, it makes complete sense.
Right. And she says that this occult order is more powerful than people realize. She didn't even name them, but they place.
He's the ultimate power, dude.
Well, they
And
place
you're gonna
trans
get you
people in
told,
positions of power to be the puppet master. So you got Macron as an idiot. His puppet master is the man who was his teacher as a boy. I mean, how many of us are even still in contact with the people we were fucking around with when we were 16, 18? Like ex-girlfriends and
I've never talked to
stuff.
a male teacher who
Right. So I mean, Macron married this person and then became president. That's interesting. And so if this person is part of some occult order of hermaphroditic transmutators, I mean, it seems to check out. Then you got Big Mike. It seems like there's a lot of stuff that goes back to France.
I always thought Jesus didn't die on a cross, by the way. Does anybody know anything about that?
No.
I just don't care about all that old biblical stuff. It took up way too much time when I was young. I did grow up in a Catholic school, and I'm just like, I can't.
And they taught you the Bible?
Well, yeah, a little bit. You know, you got the stories, but it's just like it's taking up too much of my time. Who gives a fuck? It's just some old.
Hey,
old
that's
stuff.
what I used to say until I found out that evidently it's some sort of Shakespeare play to these people, and they're going to do summer stock and put it on.
Now that I do believe that they try to manifest revelations.
Oh,
they try to make manifest revelations. Yeah, because they are still
You know what I
trying to
say?
get the second coming of Christ to come, and it's just a bunch of nonsense. But the only reason I care is because you can see some of that being played out in the template.
Well, that's why Gary Wayne's thing I love. He goes, see, that's the thing. It only comes when in that book, if you want to be in law, it comes when God says it comes. Don't come when you say it comes. And this just hadn't occurred to me. They want to make it come. That's why they're doing salvation through sin. They think if they fuck the fucking endomorphic field enough up, it forces a reset or something. It's some bullshit. That you know, and I'm sure once you get to the top, it's a different story. But it's set up like Scientology. That's all. It's a mystery school. How does mystery school work? Dude, the thing where I still can't believe this. Where I'm like, wow, that's wild. So she's fucking talking. She made a better Ouija board because the she let's call it Macron's wife, Baphomet.
Right.
So she's talking to Macron's wife,
Bridget.
I don't know. Ouija board. It tells her and her husband in a dream how to make a better one. Okay, which already that is so nuts. And she says very like, I feel like I'm watching The Fly where Martin Brundle is calmly explaining the changes he's experiencing. Like, she's like, so we made it. And she analyzed it as well. You know, you get to know, you get a peek and you get to see more. And so we like, okay. And she already don't believe in nothing like that. So what's to stop her from trying this out? The thing that always sticks with me is she goes, look, if you want to look into it, atheists won't do it with you because they're like, I'm not fucking with that. And believers won't do it with you because they're like, I'm not fucking with that. So who will do it with you? You know?
Yeah.
The French occultists.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get the sources and you get, yeah, I mean, there's a long lineage, actually. That's another pattern of the beings on the other side making contact and saying, hey, you want to make this better? You want a better signal in this line? Do this, 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 and this. A lot of people think that's what the Ark of the Covenant was. It was instructions to build this thing so you could then communicate with quote unquote God, which is really just some lower level demon.
Dude, I'm telling you, watch him because he talks about that a lot.
Fair enough. What about Enochian? That's another example. You know, John D. and Edward Kelly, they channel these things and they're given a language because that's what they do first is they say, oh, if you want to make this contact more sustained, you're going to need to get the language. And then we can talk.
The language of light.
Right. It's the language that's written on a bunch of UFOs they find, apparently. Figure that out.
Well, all these words are, you know, like I said, you're describing things with a set of words you've been given, which I think are like who invented it? Was like Rosicrucians invented the English we speak currently, didn't they? Something crazy like that. You know, it's called a spell. It's spelling. Being able to read and write is a magical ability at some point.
There's a weird,
you know, that shroud DNA, Shroudatoran. Who, honest to God, I don't understand this fight about the Shroudatoran. Like, you got a shroud of a guy with a beard. Was it on a guy with a beard? Probably. How do you then know it's Jesus? Like, where's that jump leap in out of nowhere? A lot of people had shrouds.
I don't pay too much attention to that stuff.
The markings on the body. It actually that was when, you know, that would be my argument, is actual markings on the body.
Okay, but what? So let's say it is that. What in the hell do I get out of that?
Exactly.
Bring out some Jesus juice.
I think
some extra secretions, like Carrie talks.
I've thought about that a lot. I think it's like with where we are right now, which everything we're talking about, by the way, just listening to you guys, sounds like either demonic possession or positive spiritual possession. That to me
You
is
think the Catholic Church is filled with good spiritual
No,
possession?
no,
I think Harry Potter shit like that.
I think a lot of those people are actually demonically possessed and, you know, leading us in the wrong direction. You know, I truly believe we are in that era right now, which a lot of the things you guys are talking about is weakening somebody's soul through programming. And that is the gateway. That is a gateway. You have evil, you have good, and then people could be programmed if they let in all these things. And by the way, all that stuff we're talking about, remind me when I was a kid, you know, we used to do the Ouija board. A lot of us figured out. Well, by the time I was 16, I was like, this shit's crazy.
Get them out of here.
Did it work?
Dude, after I did it once, I'm like, no, wait, this is demonic shit.
Got programmed. It's mass. I call it MK retard. The broadcasting of all they learned. See, if they disclose that they did that shit, which they did, that sounds crazy. You could just look it up anytime. In fact, disclosure, it's been disclosed.
Yeah,
you can look at it now, everyone, and be good. But you don't want to, because it's so overwhelming. And if you don't have nothing, you know, I always say I grew up in a doomsday cult, but let me tell you a great thing that doomsday cult did for me. Because it wasn't doomsday for us, it was for you motherfuckers. I can't believe you're still alive. Imagine my surprise.
Yeah. So I need
the feeling of being ready to die, but not because you're in a gang. When I was 5, dude, like I was like ready to die, dude, if it was my religion. Because you're 5, dude, and I'm like, if I got killed being a good boy, I'm good. Like the same confidence of a suicide bomber. You know,
that's scary.
We weren't doing that kind of shit, but that feeling is an intoxicating. I mean, I don't want to say intoxicating. It's a great feeling to not give a fuck like that.
Right.
As you get older, you're like, holy shit, I wouldn't have.
People want to feel important and they want to feel confident, and you can talk yourselves into a lot of things through that.
They blow up or don't.
You ever seen the photo of people connecting all the Challenger astronauts as being still working within the NASA apparatus and still alive? Fucking weird.
Yeah, I don't even know how. All right, USA Patriot Crickets. Turns out you can trick God. The balls. It's like. So I said last week on the thing. Look, the main thing of the Bible is God's like the author, not the fucking like. It's not an equal. The devil and God fight. George R. R. Martin's not afraid of the mountain that he wrote about. It's a character. So the devil's your enemy. It's called the adversary of you, idiot. So anyway.
Yeah, it's weird.
Just say your fucking intentions and go fuck yourself. I don't want to have to, like, we're fucking. I got to see what's bothering you. They all act like that. And once I found out there's a thing called the serpent race, they call themselves. Mark Windows, I got to get him on. Windows on the World. You ever have that guy on?
No, but Xavier Hayes also does the Serpent Brotherhood. It calls him the Shemsu Horror. Basically takes it all the way back to Egypt's priest class.
You know where I heard of it first, the serpent race?
I don't.
Is it Roger Lear or John Lear? Was the guy who hung out with
astronaut?
John Lear, I think.
It's not Roger. Roger Lear is a actor. John Lear. I watched some interview with him. I don't know, is he alive still? But he was going, first of all, there's 40 planets. He said there's like 40 planets. He said on the moon, if you were really staying on the moon, the sky's yellow during the day. He said the sun's not hot. It's electromagnetic radiation from the sun is being filtered through our atmosphere.
Yeah, I believe that.
He goes, the entire solar system is under the control of the serpent race. And I go, what? So no, never mind the other things. I looked him up and I couldn't find the yellow sky thing of the moon, but the 40 planets seem kind of largely semantics to me. You could say that, you know, based on the size of things or whatever. They're far out there. A solar system's big. I didn't realize how big it was. But I was like, what's the fucking serpent race? Is that like from Conan? Or you mean, what does that mean? Lizard people? Couldn't find nothing.
It's the same as the Anunnaki, and it's the same as the Naga. You know, they're called the Naga in other parts of the world. They were called
the Nukies are
Anunnaki.
I thought, but wait. So I fucking find Mark Windows' channel finally, and he has go look up Windows on the World, ancient Egyptian crowd control or something. Egyptian crowd control. It's one of the best videos I ever seen, and he's got a bunch. And on his actual website, the serpent race is a Freemason thing, and they're the sons of Cain. You know the guy Tracy was talking to? Yeah. They're his sons. That's this.
And this person who wrote the book was from a long line of Freemasons, a very long line of Freemasons going back 2,000 years. And what's interesting about this book is its credibility and the way that it explains exactly what has happened and what the true purpose of Freemasonry actually is, and of course was. And you can download the book, The Dissipation of the Darkness by G.S. Lawrence, on the free books page at windowsontheworld.net. And we are told in this book of the true purpose of Freemasonry. This is all about infiltration. The origins of the infiltration of the early Christians goes back to 43 AD. According to this prophetic book, well, in reality, known long-term plan, which is revealed in this book, it is understood that the mother of Freemasonry is the ancient mysterious force from the year 43 after Christ until 1717, when Freemasonry was officially unveiled in the British Isles. And of course, it spread to France. The Grand Orient Lodge and the Scottish Rite are inextricably linked. Well, according to the author of The Dissipation of the Darkness, the masonry of our ancestors, this mysterious force, was called the Widowed Mother, in honour of Hiram, who was orphaned of his father Hiram, therefore was called the widow's son. That's what the Freemasons say where they're in trouble. They say, will no one help the widow's son? And of course, we can refer to Samael, the blind god, also known as Lucifer when he was an angel, who is stated in Freemasonic doctrine to have had a child with earthly Eve, and because the child was part divine, part angel, this is where we get the widow's son once more, because Eve was a widow after Samael left, and this is before the time of Adam. This is what these people believe, and you can find that in A Cult That Rules the World at windowsontheworld.net. So after King Herod Agrippa started out this operation to destroy the power they so feared, the author reports in 43 AD that within a few months 2,000 brothers had joined, bearing the title the Mysterious Ones. Well, we have the overuse of the word mysterious these days, don't we? And of course, it was used and overused by the Kabbalists and of course the Rosicrucians.
Fucking serpent fucking race.
Wow.
It's some Freemason fucking shit. So this is how I know we went to the moon, even if they didn't tell you all the details of it, because they put a Scottish Rite flag up there. And if you got to do that, okay, you can't. I don't think you're allowed to fake it. If you're like, we put a Scottish Rite flag on the moon, why would anyone give a shit about that? Even if it's Scottish Rite, I'd be like, all right.
You might be able to see my hat.
Do that if you did that. You know what I'm saying?
Fair. I mean,
you can't fake it. So what's fake is the details of the thing.
I don't know. There's other takes. So you might be able to see my hat. It says moon landing film crew, but why would they possibly give that story out and then fake it? Well, limited hangout.
I got to get Jesse on. Fuck. So Jesse Michaels just talked to Charles Hall, the tall white guy.
Power on Jesse Michaels. I wish Jesse Michaels hadn't hyped up the DNA test of the Peruvian mummies, because it was just the same old DNA test.
So
and that was
let me tell you something. because I went and crashed his podcast, and I went there with him and Jay from Project Unity finds some very interesting things too. I must say, we went shooting stuff after, but I want to scam people and see what they're about. In person. I'm very interrogative. I've been pretty relentless actually, because I just want to see what you do when I say things to you and how you react to me. Jesse's a dude that's into it, and he's from a very good family. And I got news for you: all the people that have good production values are, and it's just like at Charlie Kirk. I had not realized the sincerity level of that guy, which I like. He's a martyr for free speech. Straight up, he is. Yeah. And when he started going against his controllers, things went bad for him.
And you think Jesse Michaels has controllers?
Huh?
You think Jesse Michaels has controllers or funders?
No, but I think if you dude, I don't know who your friends and family are, how close you are. I was a Jehovah's Witness, so if you leave that, everybody that you knew is going to not talk to you, really,
Sure.
But social death is worse than death. Social death is worse than death. In fact, when Tracy talks about the serpent initiating Eve into the mysteries of death, I said, I may say on the last one, or I said it on Ray's podcast we just did. I think we don't know what death is. I think we don't understand. Maybe death is a spectrum like gender. And there's levels of it. And you don't really know what anything is because it's all based on a translation of something. The whole point of having discernment. That's what Solomon supposedly prayed for, was not even he said wisdom, but it was discernment. Discernment, like, let me know what's a fucking snake and what's not a snake, please. And real easy. You know them by the fruits of their works. That's a real accurate Bible. I say you know a tree by its fruits, but I don't know if that's the scripture. It doesn't sound really correct as well.
Well, going back to the Scottish Rite moon landing ritual, first off, it can be a limited hangout, but then also if the true domain is consciousness, if that is the primary substrate of reality, then their goal is just to make you believe it happened. They don't have to literally go there. They have to seed the belief in your mind, just like all kinds of different events that they carry out. The belief creates the reality. So you seed the belief and the reality will unfold as it should, or it doesn't even really matter. The Tartaria stuff, the old world stuff that people are really digging
Windows on the World. Go listen to his Tartaria thing.
Windows on the World. That's the whole.
I'm gonna get him on. I got to do a one-on-one with him. This British guy, and he's a guy that, from what I can put together, I'm going to ask him. He was into all this stuff for a long time, and got all the old books where, like you just mentioned, the Palladian thing was Palladian level, and it is in the old books. Well, he found in the old books where Freemasons came from. Herod Agrippa, apparently Christianity spread so fast they called it the mysterious force, and it was a thing they couldn't control and plan out on their fucking astrology charts.
Wow.
They called it, and they go, how do we stop? And they made Freemasonry to counter the mysterious force.
Wow.
Windows on the World. I'm telling you, great channel. He's got his own, but he's always up front, like, you don't have to go with me here. I'm just telling you, I looked into it, and it looks with me. He's a whole thing about England being the original Jerusalem, which I'm like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I actually don't. I couldn't give less of a shit about it,
Agreed.
But I do care about good information, and it's like the LaRouchers everybody laughed at, but they got a few things that are very interesting,
Mm-hmm.
I'll look at anybody's stuff, dude. You just got to not make me bored. That's all. If you make me bored, I'm out.
Have you gone down the rabbit hole, the Cabbage Patch Kids and the orphan trains and the cyclical cataclysms and repopulating the United States?
Dude, think about how, look, if I can hypnotize everybody but me, like let's say everybody watches this amazing podcast, and I was able to hypnotize all of you that you lived 20 years in the past behind me. Well, now you do. I traveled to the future. Because we make up all those dates and shit. Like, it's literally you're being told what date it is. Like in China, it's 10,000 or some goofy shit. So once you realize that, then you realize, it is a big circle. They've been rerunning time over and over. And I don't think they have to do anything that elaborate to do it.
I agree. I think it's
perception.
When you source back a lot, because a lot of the hidden history people who look into Fomenko, he was one of the big researchers in Russia who would go down the all the dates are wrong rabbit hole. First off, you got the Dark Ages called that because there's not a lot of records there. So some people think those years were inserted into the calendar to make it look like the British, all across Europe, the royal families had longer reigns than they actually did.
Dude, and I got to say, they did a good job on this one. Gino over there, Y Files. Look up the thing about it, the missing 352 or whatever. The Tartaria thing, and my buddy Steve Boykinen, who's a ex-Rennie, you know what that is? A Renaissance fair person, the natural enemy of the Carney. Do you know Carnies and Rennies have had a war?
I grew up in Missouri. I know Carnies.
Well, their enemies, the Rennies, are.
There's
It's
always
like a
humans
goddamn-
getting in their own way. You know, there's always going to be some opposition force. So it's Carnies and Renaissance fair people. They can't get along. It's the left and right.
Tommy dog.
Dialectics, always.
Here, he texted me the name, so I'll tell you who the name is. As soon as I heard they reskinned Atlantis as a fucking Mongol Russian thing, I'm like, okay, this is like like the Jesuits. I think push flat Earth, and I think it's a Catholic op. This must be some Orthodox op. Yeah, no, I'm sure the Russian Mongols had fucking. Anyway, hold on. Let me tell you the.
What's interesting about Tartaria, by the way, I don't know if you guys know
Tartaria? Go ahead.
A lot of in the early 1900s, a lot of manuscripts from more ancient people, and I reference what was happening in Turkey with the Syrians, Greeks, Armenians, a lot of those ancient manuscripts, and I remember Tartaria being mentioned in some of those manuscripts. I mean, they were all burned down; they were destroyed.
Dude, Windows on the World. Go look at Mark Windows' thing about it. Tartaria is a map. Again, this is. All it is a word on a fucking map, dude. You can make him say whatever. Yeah, of course there is. He has a great thing about how it wasn't an empire. It was like a loose confederation of almost anarchy tribes. But
really, this kind of thing to the British intelligence services of old, because this is really, when you think about it, an imperialist way of saying there was no greater civilization than ours. And of course, every civilization has done this. They want to say that they were the first. Well, in this case, the cover-up was quite recent, but this idea of ancient Tartaria is very real. And indeed, there is an independent republic state in Russia today called Tartaria. There's also a village in modern-day Romania called Tartaria. And this is where the Tartaria tablets were found, which actually linked together this runic form of symbolism, which seems to date back at least 30,000 years, probably a lot more. And that's the sort of stuff we've been talking about over the last few weeks. So go back and have a look at those shows. But this new Tartaria has been really lapped up by the gullible, and it gained traction in the conspiracy circus, because these are the people who don't really want evidence. They want to see something and go, wow, that fits with this new theory, which I've just heard on the internet. So to go to Wikipedia, the description of this is actually quite accurate. Wikipedia is okay for some things, not for most though. But it says on the Wikipedia page that this modern Tartaria, this conspiracy theorist Tartaria, describes a certain period of history. And the idea is that it takes away the idea of this huge empire and huge mass of people. So let's see what the fake Tartaria psychological operation is actually all about. This is from Wikipedia. It says the Tartarian Empire is a group of pseudo-historical conspiracy theories. Well, actually, it's very real because we've got the maps to prove it. And one of them was actually the thumbnail for this show. And those maps are from the 1700s, before really the Romanovs took over the narrative of Russian history, what became Russian history.
Yes,
they can't let you know about that,
right?
Because they need you to believe that empire, like Alexander the Great. Why is he great? Because he's called Alexander the Accursed in Persia. They don't call him the Great. Why is he great? Because he's bisexual and he takes people's shit. I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah.
Okay. Howdy McCoskey.
Oh, I've had him on.
Okay, so he's we might have talked about, it's wild how many people get sucked into that. I know Howdy McCoskey's, who's responsible for most of the original research. He's been drummed out of the community, out of the conspiracy community. Just the fact there's a thing called the conspiracy community, just that alone should let you know the fucking Saturn box you live in.
I just think
he was wrong. So he
I
went
like
back,
him,
yeah.
but I just think he's a bit of a downer. He's kind of he
For a
seems
guy
like a
named Howdy?
nihilist. Yeah.
What does nihilist mean? Anyone?
Nihilist? Nihilist means you don't care about anything.
No, that's the Big Lebowski definition, which Crystal Ball also used about people.
Well, that's where I get most of my information from.
From the I mean, hey,
Coen
if
Brothers
you
film.
watch Hail Caesar, I think is a Caesar's Messiah thing.
I hated that one. I need to watch it again though with another perspective. But
I hated it and stopped watching. Then I watched it again and I loved it. Now, I don't believe the Caesar's Messiah thing. I think that's a spin. If there's a thing in the mysterious force they're afraid of, and here's the mysterious force, ready? It's called populism. So the reason the Jesus thing took off, if I had to guess, was the populism. And if it's one thing these motherfuckers hate, it's people not getting bogged down with identity. Oh, we can't have that for 2 seconds. You got to die if you did something like that. If you fucking, you got to stay on your team and your tribe because we run that. So I think it spread real fast. And meanwhile, you've got all the military in Rome, a Mithraist.
I remembered that during my 2005 London visit, me and my husband at the time, Brian Albert, had quite accidentally come across the remains of a Roman temple of Mithras, a Persian god who was imported into the empire early, but whose worship later became the dominant religion right at the empire's end. Mithras is mentioned in at least 3 of my nonfiction books in several different contexts. One of the things I've noted is that Aleister Crowley thought that the name of Baphomet should be properly translated to, quote, Father Mithras. However, I hadn't taken this explanation very seriously before, only because I really didn't know enough about Mithras. The Temple of Mithras that we found in London was literally just sitting there, fixed into the pavement in the middle of a courtyard outside. All that was left of it were the foundations and a few stacked stone bricks left over from the walls. The plaque next to it said that it had been moved from its original location down the street to make room for an office building. I remember how shocked we were that something which seemed so historically significant had been so badly restored and displayed. The bricks even seemed poorly laid. My husband seemed offended at this. So when I started writing my novel, I decided to look up the location of the Temple of Mithras again. That's where I hit the mother lode, for as it turns out, the temple has been restored to its original location, with a new office building now being formed around it, which will be unveiled later this year. This is being done by Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York and 6th richest man in the world, worth 30 times more than Queen Elizabeth. He's purchased the original site to build his company's new European headquarters there. This complex, which consists of 2 buildings connected with a sky bridge, was originally intended to be called Bloomberg Place. But I've spoken to the press office and learned that they now want to refer to it as, quote, Bloomberg London. Over the last few months, I have done tons of research about this location, about Michael Bloomberg, and about Mithraism. It all fit in perfectly with the story I was already writing, so I decided to use Bloomberg as the basis for my story's main villain, Blake Rosenberg, and his new building as the basis for the location of my story's most important scenes. The villain's relationship to Bloomberg is only skeletal, and the character is truly fictional. There are some similar traits and life histories between the 2 figures. However, I would like to stress that most of the criminal and deviant sexual activity that my character engages in are episodes wholly invented by me for storytelling purposes. I have no evidence that Michael Bloomberg has ever been involved in any of these things, or that his properties have been used for rituals involving child rape and murder. I also have no evidence that Mr. Bloomberg has any interest in occultism, alchemy, philosophy, or surrealist art, like my character Rosenberg. Bloomberg's building is not going to be, as far as I know, an apparatus harvesting body fluids for alchemical operations, as the building in my story is used for. However, Bloomberg London is supposed to be, quote, the smartest building in Europe, built to generate its own energy and even share it with nearby buildings. Bloomberg's building will itself be a completely integrated AI system that will watch the employees' every move, even monitor their every heartbeat, supposedly to anticipate their needs for energy efficiency.
The digital ceiling is coming, and it's going to really reshape how buildings are done. The first stepping stone to get to the digital ceiling is through your lighting, because lighting is so prevalent. They're about every 8 feet in every single building, whether it's an office, a hospital, a retail, even a manufacturing or warehouse floor has lights. You attach sensors to those lights and you connect those sensors to other building networks. Could be your HVAC, could be security, and you've got some great opportunities there.
Things like being able to beacon in a room and signal an emergency condition. Things like in the future, these lights will have sensors that go beyond the lighting realm because things are blurring. Think about a light fixture now that has a digital imaging sensor.
But to my knowledge, the closest thing to body energy harvesting there will be in the form of treadmills that are hooked up to generators. The Temple of Mithras will be housed in the main floor of the main building, with its own entrance, accessible to the public. I'm really glad that Bloomberg has done this because the Temple of Mithras is acknowledged as one of the most significant ancient Roman finds ever. It was discovered by accident in 1954 while they were constructing the office building known as Bucklersbury House.
On Londoners' doorsteps, under their doorsteps in fact, have been discovered the ruins of a Roman temple where 2,000 years ago the conquerors of Britain came to worship their god Mithras. A marble bust of the god, unearthed and taken to the British Museum, is comparatively unharmed after 20 centuries.
At the time, the City of London could not afford to keep the site open for restoration or even to explore it properly. So after the main contents were removed, construction on the office building proceeded just 2 weeks later, amid protests. When Bloomberg began his current project, which will be the building with the largest mass in all of London, many more temple artifacts were discovered, including a set of wooden writing tablets that have now been dubbed, quote, the Bloomberg tablets by historians. It's agreed that his restoration of the temple not only places it once again on its original spot, but recreates it beautifully and as accurately as possible. From what I understand, the statues of deities found there, including not only Mithras but also Hades and Mercury, will be on display there, and the altar has been restored. Now let's talk a little bit about the location itself. I figured it must have some esoteric significance, and it didn't take me long to find plenty. I believe that this was the most holy site in Roman London, and that it remains the spiritual center of London's financial power. I shall explain.
Which is the Freemasonry of the time, some Persian gay shit. And they're in a secret society of steps of initiation, and we still have the statue of a guy dressed like a chick to this day in New York Harbor from a French pervert.